A death row inmate at Parchment is scheduled to die in the gas chamber in 2 weeks.
In 1987, a BBC documentary followed Clive Stafford Smith, who had volunteered to act as the lawyer for a man on death row in Mississippi. 14 Days in May captured his attempts to stop Edward Earl Johnson being executed.
The funny thing is, I think about a future. Now that might seem kind of crazy. Now what future could I possibly have in knowing that I might supposedly be executed in the next 2 weeks?
Despite evidence suggesting Johnson was innocent, he was executed in a gas chamber on the 20th of May, 1987.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 12:06 a.m., Wednesday, May 20th, Edward Earl Johnson was executed in the lethal gas chamber here at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in conformance with the sentence of the Circuit Court of Leake County.
Sitting there watching him be gassed to death in the gas chamber was just horrific. In a way, the fact that there were cameras there made it slightly easier, because you thought this was all a movie or something and someone was going to call cut and it would all be over. But I think that's what Edward thought, and that made it a little easier for him, perhaps.
When the family asked me why, all I could say was, it's a sick world. It's a sick world. Thank you.
14 Days in May was one of a number of British documentaries which attacked capital punishment in America. These films helped shape the ongoing debate in the UK.
When you see documentaries of people on death row in America, which are fantastically common, you get the feeling that this is contributing to the debate here, reflecting liberal opinion here, but probably not actually reflecting what the majority of the population believe. I don't think it's changed their minds in any way. In many ways, it's as so often with these things, it's the liberal elite speaking to the liberal elite.
While British programme makers used the American experience to highlight the flaws in capital punishment, in the UK itself, there was rising public demand that Britain too should begin executing again. For the first time since abolition, Britain had a Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, who supported the death penalty. And MPs were given a free vote on the subject throughout the 1980s.
When I first came into Parliament, there was still, certainly in the public domain, quite an active debate going on about the death penalty, because it was the height of the IRA outrages. Innocent people were dying in random terror acts, and people were saying, well, at least bring it back for terrorism. You know, even if you don't bring it back for anything else, at least bring it back for terrorism. So there was still quite a lively debate about whether it should be brought back. When there was a free vote on the death penalty, I always voted for restoration, because I do believe there's a very strong moral case for saying that such a deterrent should be available.
This government will never surrender to the IRA, never.
Really, all of that was really smashed at the end of the 80s and 90s, when, of course, the government had to confront the fact that in the cases of Irish terrorists, particularly the Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4, that all of these people had been exonerated on the basis that they had not had a fair trial, and that the evidence was not sufficient to convict.
In 1991, the Birmingham 6 and Guildford 4 were declared innocent and released after spending almost 2 decades in prison.
I'm in prison 15 years for something I didn't do, for something I didn't know anything about.
Had Britain retained the death penalty then, they would have almost certainly faced execution.
Whether it's Guildford 4, Birmingham 6, Judith Ward, Tottenham 3, and so on. In many of these cases, what transpired was that there was a flawed system. Now, you can't have a final verdict, like an execution, where you haven't got an infallible system, which means that there's a serious risk you're going to, as it were, kill innocent people.
It was cases of miscarriages of justice like these that persuaded many in government that Britain could never reinstate capital punishment. In 1994, the last free vote took place in Parliament on reintroducing the death penalty. It was heavily defeated, with Home Secretary Michael Howard now voting in favour of retaining abolition.
For a long time, I supported capital punishment because I thought it was a deterrent. And actually, I still think it is a deterrent. But I changed my mind because of the risk of a mistake. It was the cases of the Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4 that changed my mind on that. I accepted that you could never completely eliminate the risk of mistake. And since then, I've become averse as well to the whole idea of the state deliberately taking someone's life.
But it wasn't until 1998, when the Labour government passed the Crime and Disorder Act, that the death penalty was completely removed from British law. Up until then, executions could still be carried out for treason and piracy. Later that year, the Court of Appeal quashed the 1953 conviction of Derek Bentley, and he was posthumously pardoned. By 2010, 139 countries had abolished the death penalty.
We are seeing a greater polarization in the world. We are seeing a wide gap between the mental makeup of those people in the countries that oppose the death penalty and the people in the countries that see no problem with it.
Surprisingly, the country that has the highest cases of capital punishment per capita is Singapore. But it is believed the country that executes the most people per year is China.
The trouble with China is that it's still a state secret, and the party will not reveal the number of people sentenced to death and executed. So you have no idea really how many people are put to death there. But at the UN Human Rights Council, at the end of 2007, the Chinese delegate, I think he's called Mr. La Yifan, made a statement that China was reducing its use of the death penalty and was setting in plans to do so with the ultimate aim of abolishing it. Now, this is a statement really from the state and state authority that abolition is a goal. We haven't heard that from the United States, I'm sorry to say, from the State Department.
But even in America today, the use of capital punishment is a lot less widespread.
It's also true that amongst the 35 states that have the death penalty, about a third of them never use it. Another third impose death sentences but rarely carry them out. And the death sentences that are carried out are typically in one region of the nation, that's to say the South. These days, more than half of the death sentences that are executed occur in Texas. So, is America a death penalty nation? Well, in parts.
In 2010, those American states which continue to use the death penalty have been challenged over whether executing an individual in a painful manner infringes their human rights. This debate could see the end of the death penalty in America. But its supporters have gone back to 18th century ideas of punishment to defend the right to execute.
To say that it has to be painless is to lose sight of what it is, which is punishment. In its etymology, in its very meaning, the word punishment comes from the same root as pain. It is in its essential conception painful. If it is not painful, it is not punishment. when killers intentionally or with a depraved indifference inflict intense pain and suffering on their victims. In my view, they should die a quick but painful death. Not torture, not drawn out, but quick and painful.
The debate about capital punishment has raged for over 200 years. Both sides believe they are in the right. And if the history of capital punishment has taught us one thing, it's that both sides will continue to fight their corner passionately. To challenge your views and learn more about the justice system, go to bbc.co.uk/justice and follow the links to the Open University.